The knock wasn't friendly. It was the kind of knock that says, "You're not in charge anymore." I yanked the front door open in my old sweatpants, still half asleep, and my stomach dropped. 2 police officers stood on my porch. One had a notepad. The other watched my hands like he'd seen people do stupid things before coffee. "Ma'am," the taller one said, "are you the one who got a call last night about wiring $20,000? My mouth went dry. A call, not an accident, not a hospital update, a call. And the memory snapped into place like a trap. Because at exactly 100 a.m. my phone had buzzed against the nightstand, bright and angry. "Mom," I answered on instinct. "Mom, no, hello, no, are you okay?" Just my mother's voice, shrill with panic. "Wire $20,000. "I don't know, your brother's in the ER. I sat up so fast the sheets tangled around my legs. "What, Mark, what hospital?" There was a tiny pause, not long, just wrong. Then my dad came on, clipped and forceful. "Stop asking questions, do it. If you don't, he'll suffer all night." He said it like I was holding the morphine. I glanced at the clock, 103. The house was quiet. My husband slept on, unaware that my parents had just dragged their emergency into my bed. "Dad," I said, keeping my voice level. "Tell me the name of the hospital." My mom jumped back in tears, suddenly loud. "Why are you doing this? He's your brother." That line used to work on me. It used to yank me upright, grab my purse, open my banking app, and fix whatever mess Mark had made this time. Mark is 42. He's always been the boy with so much potential. The one my parents protect, excuse rescue. He's crashed cars, maxed credit cards, quit jobs with dramatic speeches about toxic managers. And my parents have always found a way to make it someone else's responsibility. Usually mine. And then there's Emily, my parents' other miracle. My little sister, the one my mom still calls our baby. Emily gets comfort. Emily gets patience. Emily gets second chances that come with gift cards and gas money. I get late-night demands. So when my mother sobbed, "Please, honey, just wire it," something in me went cold and clear. I said the words that had been sitting on my tongue for years. "Call your favorite daughter." Silence, not the dropped call kind, the offended kind. My dad's voice tightened. "Don't you start with that." "Good night," I said. I hung up. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten. I didn't explain my boundaries like a PowerPoint presentation. I just ended the call, set the phone face down, and lay back down. And I went back to sleep. Maybe that sounds heartless, but it wasn't heartless. It was exhausted. It was me finally refusing to be frightened into obedience at 1:00 in the morning. When morning came, I woke to sunlight and the normal noises of the neighborhood trash truck down the street, a dog barking, my coffee maker clicking on. Then that knock hit the door again, hard, impatient. And now the police were standing in front of me waiting. "Yes," I managed, my voice smaller than I liked. "My parents called." The officer made a quick note. "Did you wire the money?" "No." He nodded once, like that mattered more than he was allowed to say out loud. Then he looked up, eyes steady. "Ma'am," he said, "we're here because that ER call was reported as a fraud attempt, and the number it came from doesn't match your parents." My heart stopped. "If it wasn't them," I whispered then, "who was calling me at 1:00 a.m., the taller officer didn't answer my question right away. He glanced past me into my entryway like he was checking for someone else in the house. Someone who might step out and change the story. Instead, he said, "Can we talk inside, ma'am, just somewhere quiet?" I nodded and stepped back. My living room still smelled like coffee. The morning news murmured from the TV, talking about weather and road closures like nothing in the world was wrong. The officer introduced himself as Officer Ramirez. The other was Officer Hensley. They didn't look dramatic. No flashing lights, no raised voices. That was the worst part, because whatever this was, it was real. Ramirez held up a hand gently, the way you do with someone older who might be frightened. "First, nobody's saying your parents are criminals. Not yet, but we need to ask you a few questions." He opened his notepad. "You said your parents called around 1:00 in the morning. What did they tell you exactly?" I swallowed. "My mom said my brother was in the ER and I needed to wire $20,000. I asked which hospital. My dad took the phone and said to stop asking questions and just do it." "And you refused," Hensley said, more statement than question. "I told them to call my favorite sister-daughter," I admitted. My cheeks burned because it sounded petty when I said it out loud. But it also sounded true. Ramirez nodded like he'd heard worse family dynamics before breakfast. "Did they give you wiring instructions? A bank name, a routing number, anything like that?" "No, they wanted me to do it right now, but they didn't give details." He looked at my phone. May we see your call log? My hands trembled as I unlocked it and handed it over. I hated that. I hated feeling like I'd done something wrong just because I was being questioned. Ramirez scrolled careful and professional. Here it is, he said. Incoming call at 10:01 a.m. He tilted the screen toward me. My mother's name was there, but the number underneath it wasn't hers. I blinked. That's not my mom's number. That's what we're trying to explain, Ramirez said. The call displayed as your mom, that's called spoofing. It's common with fraud attempts, especially late-night emergency calls. I stared at the screen, heat rising in my throat. So someone pretended to be my parents, possibly Hensley said. Or someone used a service to mask their number. Ramirez flipped the phone slightly and tapped another notification. And you also received a text at 10:07 a.m. My blood ran colder than the December air outside. I hadn't seen any text. Maybe because I'd hung up and dropped my phone face down like it was burning me. Ramirez read it aloud, his voice flat. Wire it to this account, don't waste time, he's in pain, then a routing number, an account number, a name I didn't recognize. My mouth opened but no sound came out. Hensley watched my face carefully. You didn't see this? No, I whispered. I swear I didn't. Ramirez held up his palm again. We believe you. The reason we're here is because your bank flagged an attempted wire template created in your name this morning. Someone tried to set it up using your personal info. My personal info, I echoed. How would they get that? Ramirez's eyes didn't leave mine. That's what we're trying to determine. Do you share accounts with your parents? Do they have access to your online banking? I shook my head fast. No, I learned that lesson years ago. It slipped out before I could stop it. Hensley gave a small understanding nod, the kind a man gives when he's heard too many families say the same thing. Ramirez asked, does your brother have access to your information? Your date of birth, your social security number? My stomach twisted. He shouldn't, but then memories pressed in my mother insisting she needed my SSN years ago for insurance paperwork. My father asking for my banking login just temporarily when he couldn't figure out bill pay. My brother borrowing my laptop, my phone, my trust. I suddenly didn't know what anyone had. Ramirez leaned forward slightly. Ma'am, we've had 3 other reports this week using the exact same script. Middle of the night panic. Wire money or your loved one will suffer. It targets people who respond out of fear. I felt something sharp and bitter rise up in me, so I was just another number. Not exactly, Hensley said quietly, because this one used your brother's name. That means whoever did it knew your family. The room seemed to tilt. Ramirez closed his notebook. Here's what we need now. We'd like you to come down to the station and make a statement, and we'd like to trace that account the text provided. I swallowed hard. What if it is my family? Ramirez's voice softened, but his words didn't. Then the truth will come out either way. He stood. One more thing, do not call your parents yet. If this is someone close to you, we don't want them destroying evidence. My phone sat heavy in my hand like a brick, and all I could think was, if I didn't call them, I'd be afraid. But if I did call them, I might finally learn who was really behind that 1:00 a.m. scream. At the station, everything smelled like copier paper and old coffee. Officer Ramirez sat me in a small interview room with a metal table and a box of tissues nobody wanted to touch. He offered me water. I took it mostly to keep my hands from shaking. Before we start, he said, I want you to understand something. You did the right thing by not wiring money in the middle of the night. I let out a humorless breath. It didn't feel right when you were on my porch. It rarely does, he said gently. Then he slid a form toward me and began the statement, time, number, exact words. I repeated the call like it was a recipe I never wanted to learn. When we got to the text message, Ramirez asked, do you recognize the name attached to that account? I stared at the screenshot he'd printed. The name was short, clean, and unfamiliar. But there was something about the initial that snagged at my memory. No, I lied at first out of habit, out of loyalty I hadn't earned in years. Ramirez didn't push. He just said, okay, let's confirm one thing at a time. He stepped out and returned with a woman from the fraud unit. Plain blazer, no nonsense. The kind of person who's seen too many people lose too much money. She introduced herself as Detective Green. Here's what we're going to do, she said. We don't call anyone yet. Not your parents, not your brother, not your sister, but we can verify the hospital claim right now. She slid my phone back to me. Do you know where your brother usually goes for medical care? County General, I said, or St. Mary's if Mom is being dramatic. Detective Green nodded. Call County General, not from a number in your contacts. Search it, use their main line, that detail mattered. It told me this was bigger than my family's chaos. This was procedure because people like me, people overrusting and overt tired, got played every day. I dialed the hospital's published number with my fingertip hovering like it might bite. A receptionist answered. I kept my voice steady. Hi, I'm trying to locate a patient, Mark Wilson. The line went quiet for a second while she searched. Then I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't have anyone by that name in our ER. My throat tightened. Are you sure? Yes, she said kindly, like she'd already heard this kind of fear today. If you think someone is impersonating the hospital, please contact law enforcement. I ended the call and looked up at the detective. So he's not dying, I said, or he's not there. Detective Green's expression didn't change exactly. My chest buzzed with a mixture of relief and rage. Relief that my brother wasn't bleeding out somewhere. Rage that someone had used the idea of him dying like a crowbar on my bank account. Ramirez tapped his pen. Now we move to the second part, the money. Detective Green pointed to the printed text. This account information, someone wanted you to wire to it. That's not random. Someone either knows you or knows your family well enough to sound convincing. I heard my own voice in my head, call your favorite daughter. And suddenly the name on the paper felt less random. My sister Emily had always been the one who needed help just this once. Emily had always been the one with a Saab story and a new phone number. I didn't say it out loud yet, not without proof. Detective Green leaned forward. Here's where you get your power back, ma'am. If you're willing, we can run a controlled response. You reply to the text as if you're cooperating, calm, slow, asking for details. Scammers hate details. My stomach flipped. You want me to play along, only with us watching, she said. And you do not send money, you do not click links, you only ask questions and let them hang themselves. Revenge didn't have to be loud, it could be careful, I nodded once. Okay. Green dictated and I typed, I can wire it. What hospital, what room, who's the doctor? Then we waited. 5 minutes, 10. My phone stayed silent like whoever had screamed at me at 1:00 a.m. had suddenly remembered daylight existed and daylight meant accountability. Then at exactly 9:42 a.m. a new text popped up. Stop asking, just send, he's suffering. No hospital name, no doctor, no room, just pressure. Detective Green's eyes sharpened. Good. That tells me whoever this is isn't trying to help your brother, they're trying to control you. My fingers hovered over the screen again, steadier this time, because if they wanted control, I was about to give them something else instead. Detective Green didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She slid my phone back across the table like it was a loaded weapon, then looked me dead in the eye. They're rushing you because they don't want you thinking. So we're going to make them think. Officer Ramirez stayed near the doors, folded, calm and solid. He looked like the kind of man who'd walked into 100 messy family situations and learned the same truth every time: panic makes people obedient. And obedience makes criminals bold. Green tapped the screen where the scammer had texted, stop asking, just send, he's suffering. Reply like you're cooperating, she said, but ask for something they can't resist giving. I swallowed. Like what? Details that create a trail, she said. Full name on the account, bank branch, anything. My mouth felt dry, but my fingers were steady now. Steady the way they get when you stop being scared and start being angry. I typed, I'm at the bank, they need the full name on the account to send the wire. What is it? Green nodded once. Perfect. We waited 30 seconds, a minute. Then the reply popped up like a slap. Emily Wilson, now send it. I stared at it so long my eyes started to sting. Emily, my little sister, my parents' baby, the one who never suffered consequences because someone else always paid first. Detective Green didn't look surprised. She looked satisfied, like the final puzzle piece had clicked into place. Okay, she said quietly, now we have something we can work with. Officer Ramirez leaned in, reading the screen. That's your sister's full name. I nodded and the motion felt heavy, like I was agreeing to something I could never take back. Green lifted her pen. We're going to document this. Then we're going to verify whether that account is actually hers or if someone's using her name. I almost laughed, sharp, bitter. In my family it's hers, because I remembered the little things. My mother insisting Emily needed help after her divorce. My father grumbling about these prices right before asking if I could cover something just until next month. Emily's new purse, new nails, new phone always showing up right after some late-night crisis. Green made a call to the bank's fraud liaison, while Ramirez printed the texts and screenshots for the file. Watching those pages slide out of the printer felt unreal, like my whole life was being converted into evidence. Then Green said, "We're going to do a welfare check on my brother." I asked. "Yes," she said, "if he's truly in the ER, we confirm. If he's not, we confirm that too." The drive to my parents' house took 12 minutes. I'd made that drive 1,000 times. Sunday dinners, holiday guilt trips, emergency errands. It was the same quiet neighborhood, the same trimmed hedges, the same porch flag. But this time I wasn't pulling in to fix something. 2 cruisers rolled up behind us. Officer Ramirez asked me to stay in the car just for now. My hands clenched in my lap. From the passenger seat I watched the officers walk up the walkway and knock. My mom opened the door fast like she'd been waiting for someone. And there he was, Mark, alive, not pale, not bandaged, not suffering. He stood behind her in a t-shirt, holding a mug like it was any other morning. Even from the car, I could see the way my mother's face changed when she saw the uniforms, the way the smile tried to happen and failed. The officers spoke to her briefly, then stepped aside, and then I saw Emily move into view, peeking from the hallway like a child caught sneaking cookies. My stomach turned over. Ramirez came back to the car, expression controlled. "Your brother isn't at the hospital." I stared straight ahead, my voice thin. "I know," he hesitated, then added, "Your parents say they have no idea what this is about." I let out a small strangled sound. "Of course they do." Green returned a moment later, her face set. "Ma'am, we need you to come inside. We're going to ask them questions with you present." My pulse hammered. Part of me wanted to run. Another part wanted to finally look them in the eye and stop pretending this was normal. I stepped out of the car and started walking toward the porch. And as I climbed the steps, my mother's voice floated out through the open door, high and trembling like she was already preparing the story she'd tell to make this my fault. The paperwork didn't take long. The silence did. On my parents' porch, Detective Green spoke like facts were heavy enough on their own. Because no money was transferred, she said the county is offering a diversion agreement for a first-time fraud attempt. That means a formal police report, the account frozen, restitution fees, mandatory fraud education and family counseling. Break the terms and the case moves forward. My mother's face crumpled. "Counseling for our family." Green didn't blink, "Especially for your family." Emily stood with her arms wrapped around herself, mascara smudged. Mark stared past us like this was all beneath him. My dad cleared his throat. "We didn't mean." "No," I said steady. "You meant to scare me into paying." That landed harder than shouting. It hit the place where excuses usually lived. Green handed me a report number and a checklist. Officer Ramirez gave me back my phone. "If they contact you again asking for money," he said quietly, "don't negotiate, call us." When the officers left, my mother turned to me with wet eyes. "Honey, we were desperate." I looked at her, really looked. Desperate people ask for help. Manipulative people manufacture fear. My father's shoulders sagged. "We thought you'd do it, you always do." "I used to," I said, "that's why you tried." Emily took a step forward. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't soften, not yet. It went exactly as far as it needed to. You used my brother's emergency to push a wire transfer to your name. That's not panic, that's a plan." Her face folded, and for a second I saw what my parents had created. A grown woman who'd never been forced to feel consequences. Then I did the one thing that felt like revenge and like peace. "I'm cutting off all financial support," I said. "No more midnight calls, no more just this once. If you need help, it will be the kind you can't spend information, appointments, resources." My mom opened her mouth, but no sound came. My dad looked like he'd been punched. "And if you want a relationship with me," I added, "we start with honesty. We meet with a counselor. You stop cleaning up Mark's messes and calling it love. And Emily, if you want forgiveness, you earn trust back one small truth at a time. It wasn't a movie reconciliation. It was adult reconciliation, the kind built with boundaries, not promises." On the drive home, I followed Green's checklist. I turned on bank alerts, changed my passwords, and placed a fraud alert on my credit. Then I wrote one more note to myself. Pick a family code word for real emergencies, something only we would know. Because here's the lesson I wish someone had taught me sooner. Fear is a tool. Scammers use it, and so do families that have learned they can control you with guilt. If you ever get a panic call, especially in the middle of the night, hang up. Call back using a verified number. Ask for the hospital name, the room number, the doctor. Real emergencies can answer questions. Fake ones demand speed. That night my phone stayed silent. My house was quiet. And for the first time in a long time, quiet didn't feel like guilt. It felt like safety. If you've ever been the responsible one, the one everyone calls when the world is on fire, tell me in the comments. Would you have hung up too? And if this story hit home, subscribe to Silent Family Drama right now, because the next episode might give you the words, the courage, or the warning you need. Hit like, share this with someone you love, and let's remind each other that boundaries aren't cruelty, they're protection. The end.